Hi, Katie. I'm so excited to have you on the Power Women Wellness podcast. I would love to just jumpstart right into learning about you, who you are, what do you do, what got you into this business that you're in.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I'm happy to dive right in. But my name is Cattie Khoury. I'm the founder of a snack food company called Toodaloo Superfoods. We just turned a year old, which is so exciting. And we oddly had like the best birthday gift of launching into Sprouts nationwide on our first birthday. So that was really synchronistic. So we're about 500 stores now. And, I've always loved food. So Toodaloo is a line of snack foods. We have 4 different flavors that are all supportive of a function. So there's a gut health flavor, spice citrus, there's relaxation. And so they're all functional. And this idea came to me during quarantine because as I said, I've always loved food my whole life, like so much so that growing up, I was really overweight, as was everyone in my family. My mom had diabetes. My dad had congestive heart failure. So we loved food, but not like the good food, like the processed foods, like our pantry looked something like a gas station when you would walk in. And so
Don't worry, girl. I think I had like the pink snowballs that you get, or like the little Debbie's. That was so me.
Oh my gosh, the little Debbie's like oatmeal pies. Oh, those were dangerous.
Yes.
Yes, that was my childhood and sometimes still a little bit of my adulthood, not gonna lie. But I've always had, a love-hate relationship with food. But luckily, as I got older, I started to learn about proper nutrition. Started doing yoga when I was about 13. So I started learning how to heal myself and was introduced to the world of healing kind of early on. And, that was all fine and dandy and great until the pandemic hit. And when the pandemic hit, I think like many of us, we were kind of like our whole world flipped upside down. And my coping mechanism was always to eat or to, stuff my face or, whatever have you. I always had challenges with some certain harmful coping mechanisms. And so I found myself binge eating again during quarantine. And one of the things that I was binging on was trail mix. And if you look at trail mix, most delicious trail mixes are filled with dairy, highly refined sugars, highly refined oils, GMO ingredients, and they're polluting packaging. And so I just decided to focus on this one thing that I could control in this time when we could control nothing around us. And I bought a dehydrator on Amazon, started applying some of this. I started studying plant-based nutrition at that time and had learned about adaptogenic herbs and really herbs as like medicine and food as medicine. So started applying adaptogenic herbs to dehydrated fruits. And that's sort of kind of where the first concept of Toodaloo came to be.
Oh my gosh. And oh my God, now that you like pieced all together, which I'm so excited that you guys are in Sprouts, because we had Toodaloo in one of our quarterly wellness boxes and all of our patients were like, oh my gosh, this is so good. Like, where do you get it? I'm like, I think right now you can only get it online. So I'm excited to share like, no, you can get it in Sprouts, which is awesome.
Amazing.
But I realized that you said that, yeah, you started this business during the pandemic, which is insanely impressive, I might add.
Thank you. I think it was really just a way to not lose my mind because all these things I had learned to like really like help with mental health. I needed something. I think it needed some kind of goal or something to track progress towards. So honestly, like Toodaloo, while like I'm so grateful for it to be a successful business, I'm so grateful because it truly saved my mental health during pandemic.
Yeah. I think we're all losing a little. I mean, I'm an introvert, slightly extrovert when I need to be, but I was living my best life personally. My husband was not living his best life. He was stressed out and he's like, I just want to go somewhere. I'm like, too bad. Everything's closed. So you got to hang out here with me. Yeah. And just keeping busy and like having and building this business, I'm sure I know what it takes to build a business. So I'm sure that kept you plenty busy in such a time when there's really nothing else to do. So yay. Where I'm guessing this is in your to do, but are any idea of when you might be in Whole Foods?
So we're in conversations with Whole Foods, but
Okay, good.
they're playing a little bit hard to get. You know,
Mm,
they're definitely one of the biggest opportunities we could secure. So fingers crossed, hopefully soon. They have
fingers
samples.
crossing.
And, you know, it's interesting with grocery stores, they have certain time frames where they review each of the categories. So like frozen food has a time, or like, you know, trail mix
Oh,
Smoothies. They all have certain times of the year where they're reviewed, and then they have certain times of year when they're like put into store. So we were a little kind of
interesting.
missed. Yeah, we kind of missed the first like or the excuse me, last year's review. So this year we're in the ranks.
Oh my gosh. Well, I'm crossing fingers and toes and all that. Cause I love that you can order online, but yeah, being able to just like pick it up in store is awesome.
Thank you.
I think I should have had a bag. They have a bag here still. But it's like so good. I mean, like I need to order more, but it's so good. I'm like, I don't want to, it's like my bag.
You're like, this is
I was like, it's
I'll send you some.
awesome. So I'm sure Toodaloo is a part of your routine, but share with us your morning routine, like everything from like, what does your breakfast look like, your beverage of choice? Do you do anything in your life like meditation? Like, how do you start off your morning?
Yeah, so I've recently, probably in the last, really probably in the last 8 months, I started going to bed like at 10:30 and waking up at like 7. And for some reason, that is my sweet spot. And I don't wake up, like if I were to sleep longer, I would feel exhausted. If I were to sleep less, I would feel like foggy in my mind. So for whatever reason, that's my sweet spot. And as soon as I wake up, I'm like, you know, making my bed. That's like the simplest thing. Like making my bed is like if it's not if it's not made, I'm a little like, I just feel off. So my mornings are very sacred. Like I want to be in complete control of how I feel. And I do that by like these little steps. Like I won't check my email. I won't lay in my bed and like look at my phone. I'll get up when my first alarm goes off. I won't snooze it anymore. I used to be a big old snoozer, but not anymore, not anymore. So I make my bed, and then I'll go and I'll do my skincare regimen, which is like, you know, it used to be pretty complex. First it was non-existent, then it was complex, and now it's pretty simple because I'm really focused at year 27. Skincare and hydration, those are like my two goals.
Yeah.
So wake up and I really make sure I do my little skincare routine, and I'll just do
Do you
like
have a favorite brand or product?
I have like a mixture. I just started using this brand called Crude, which they use like they're like an oil-based kind of skincare line, and they're very much focused on your like the health of your gut. And they believe that
Oh,
like whatever you put on your face, there's like an ecosystem of microorganisms that are healthy for your face and your gut, and they believe it's all connected. So what the ingredients are like 100% organic and healthy for the microbiome. So I really like them. And then I have like a couple like, you know, Paula's Choice for vitamin C and stuff like that. So I use a couple different
mhm.
products. So I do my morning routine with my skincare, make sure I feel good. Then I do my stretching. I need to move at least, you know, 20 minutes of stretching and then at least 30 minutes of walking. And that's how I just start my morning. And then I'm like, okay, then I can have my hot water and lemon to detox my body. And so it's not like overly complicated, but there are certain things that I know I have to do to get my mind right and my body right for the day to come. So that way by like
Yeah.
9 a.m., I'm ready for my meetings, ready for my calls, and primed for the day.
I love that. I agree. I know I was in a bad habit of like checking phone and all that stuff before getting up. And man, you don't think it is until I, minimized it and took it away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I did not realize how much this affected my whole day. So the mornings are very sacred to me too. I absolutely agree.
Yes, mornings are so sacred. And honestly, before I implemented that practice, I realized how much email, news, social media was infiltrating and dictating what I was going to think about. And I got really depressed, like having to
Yeah.
manage especially managing social media for the business. You're like kind of forced to do, you know, your interact
Yeah.
on there. And it can be really, if you're not mindful of it, it can be really detrimental for mental health. So starting the mornings
Yeah.
in control, this is how I'm going to think, this is what I'm going to think about, this is how I'm going to feel, has been game changing.
I love that. And I feel like you're starting your day off with a little win of making your bed too. Like, even though
Yeah,
it's so small, it's like a mini win. Like, I'm killing
totally crushing it.
it.
Like, yes, life is good.
So So tell us a little bit about your nighttime routine. I know some people have like their morning and night's nothing. Then people are very night heavy and morning's not too bad. So like, is your nighttime routine equally as sacred or not so much?
Totally. So morning is like light, like a light routine, but my evenings have become very sacred. And there was something that I read about when I was reading about the Stoics, like the daily Stoic. Something that people would do is that they would review their day at the end of it. Like they would review, how did you show up? Or like, they would look at their performance for the day and reflect on it. So at night, it's just a review. So I'm just saying, this is what I did well. This is what I didn't do well. This is how I'd like to show up, tomorrow. These are my goals for the next day. So that way in the morning when I'm like, I've already like basically processed the day before. And then I come for the next day ready to accomplish whatever I had set forth for the night before. So, in the next day I have my to-do list, which includes like things that I learned from the night before. So that's a part of my nighttime routine. I also have like, my more like, my more complicated skincare regimen at night. Which is like, I just got involved with like retinoids and retinols, which is apparently like something you should do and they're game changing. So I have my nighttime skincare routine. I like to read, because reading really calms me, not on my phone because of the blue light. So I like to read at night. And I'll read anything from, things about business related or climate change, or I'll read about psychology, relationships, or, those kinds of things. So there's always a good mix. And yeah, and then I like to have a prayer. I like to say, I like to really set intentions and really get in touch with my spirituality at night. That's really sacred for me. And that's kind of it.
Yeah. I love that. I know you mentioned too, like just reflecting on your day and even planning the next day. Do you have a favorite journal or planner that you just absolutely love?
Yes. So I'm obsessed with stationery. I think of items as sacred. So like, this is another good thing to bring up. I have a sacred space that I always create, and I have one in my home, but also wherever I go, I like to make sure I create a sacred space. So I'll have certain crystals there, or I'll have, like certain herbs, depending on like where I'm at and what I have access to. I just always go and create a sacred space. And, at home, I have like my sound bowls and different things, but I also have journals, like a sacred journal for reflecting. I use that journal for only that thing. And then I have like my to-do list journal, and that's my only journal. The only purpose for that is for the to-do list. So in my brain, the organization of it allows for a better experience when I'm using it, but also just like, there's something like calming to the nervous system when you return to familiar things. And I think that that's also part of it.
Yeah. Is your journal just like any cute one at Target, or do you have like a specific brand, or like Erin Condren? I love Erin Condren planners. I love like stationery stuff too. So did you have one or no?
I don't. I really like, like the moleskin kind of type for to-do lists.
Yes.
Thin, I love like the thin kind of journal, but for like my sacred journal that I use for reflections, I actually just pick them up at like, the crystal store, because usually they have some kind of like really nice, like leather bound or pleather, like I just go off the vibe of how I feel when I encounter it.
I love that. That is so much, I feel like, of our generation, to be honest, because when I'm like, that's such a vibe, and like, I need that. And everyone's like, what does that even mean? I'm like, it's just a vibe. I don't know.
Yes, exactly.
Vibe, okay. But I love that you kind of shared too, because I know before we started recording, you were telling me like all the places that you're having to go for trade shows and stuff for work. And I think that's amazing that you're finding, no matter where you are, not at home, you're just finding that space that you can like go back to. Because I think a lot of people think, oh my gosh, when you travel, I'm not going to eat healthy. I'm just like, all hell is honestly going to break loose. Like I'm going to follow my routine. And it doesn't sound like that's the case for you.
It was in the beginning, and I legitimately experienced burnout like before I ever should have, because I was not maintaining any sort of routine. So after just experiencing the exhaustion of just running all over the place, sleeping on different time zones, like eating whatever was in front of me, my body's just too sensitive for that. So that's really like, about eight months ago or so, as I really started implementing things like proper sleep, creating a sacred space, vitamins. I started doing the vitamin thing that has changed my entire life, and and it's just like, those familiar practices that bring me back into harmony. So now, I just was on a 9-hour flight yesterday, and I woke up this morning at 5 and I didn't feel exhausted. Like just doing these little things is truly helping me stay on top of my game, because I
love that.
I can't afford to operate at a low level anymore,
Yeah, I mean, exactly. And that's why we love working with women in power, because if you have to show up, you've got to show up and you've got to be on your A game. There's no excuse for being not on your A game. Walk us through a little about like what you eat in a day. And this could be like a typical day, maybe not when you're traveling, but maybe just when you're home, like your breakfast, lunch, dinner, some snacks. What are your go-tos?
Totally. So I have been vegetarian for the most part for most of my life. And I've recently just attempted to do veganism. So what my day kind of looks like now, when I wake up, I'm usually not really hungry until afternoon sometime. So in the morning, I'll just do my hot water. I do hot water, lemon, and I'll also put a little bit apple cider vinegar, turmeric. So there's this like hot water elixir that I drink, and it's really supposed to just detox the body, because overnight your body's detoxing, but there's always stuff that doesn't get processed all the way through. So I like to start my day on like a fresh page or a clean slate. So I'll drink that in the morning. Then around like 12:30, I'll start to get hungry, and I'll usually do a smoothie, like a leafy green smoothie. I can't tell you how this has impacted my digestion, because leafy greens are just so good for you, but oftentimes people don't want to have a salad. It's kind of like they get bored, but you can put so many leafy greens into a smoothie and it'll like, you can barely taste it. So I'll put leafy smoothies. I'll put some sea moss gel, which I recently have become obsessed with. There's so many, I think that I might say this wrong, but there might be 108 vitamins and minerals that your body needs. And sea moss gel supposedly has like 92 of them. And it also makes the smoothie a little bit more consistent. So definitely, if you guys haven't, check it out. Check out sea moss gel. Make sure.
Is there a brand that you like? Or
I don't have a particular brand, because the first jar I ever bought was at a farmer's market, but just make sure that whatever you're getting is 100% organic. And then I've also heard that make sure that the sea moss is from the St. Lucia like area, and it'll say that on the jar. So there's that. And you can also make some yourself. You can buy like the dried sea moss and make it at home and add flavorings if you'd like. So I'll put that in there, put some plant-based protein. That'll usually get me pretty satiated, maybe some cherries, and I'll have that for a little while. Then I'll usually do some kind of like kale Caesar salad or some kind of light salad, or like a little hummus wrap with some veggies. And then in the evening, I like to have my bigger meal. I get pretty hungry by 4, 5, 6, I'm starving. So I'll have my big meal. And then of course, like I love to snack. So I'll of course have like probably a little bit of Toodaloo, or, some like, I really like the toasted almond dip. One of my girlfriends makes this brand called Toasty, and it's so good. So I usually have like some kind of almond dip with like tomato cherries, cherry tomatoes, and like celery or something like that. And then, I'll have the big meal. The big dinners are usually some kind of rice or bean. I really love beans. Then of course, like lots of veggies, broccoli, zucchini, squash, sometimes tofu. Lately tofu has been a thing. And I like
that's awesome.
I
love that. And you said Toasty was like an almond dip?
Yeah. So one of my friends, she makes this toasted almond dip. And if you guys have had the it's called bitchin sauce. I don't know if you can curse on here, but that's the first brand I ever encountered. And they have this like raw almond dip. And then my friend, who's also in Austin, she makes a toasted almond dip, and it's so good.
That's awesome. You got some good things I'll definitely put in the show notes for sure. What are like 2 healthy meals that like are hands down your favorite and like you just love? Because I know some people think, oh my gosh, my like deathbed meals are going to be something really unhealthy, which is totally fine. It can be. But do you have any like 2 healthy meals that you just love? It's your favorite thing ever.
Okay, so if I'm gonna have a meal with meat, I make these like PF Chang, like chicken lettuce wraps that are
Oh,
legitimately so good. They have water chestnuts, red bell peppers, green bell peppers, yellow onion, and then you can use like
oh,
ground chicken or ground turkey. And then you put this not soy sauce, but it's coconut aminos. You put coconut aminos
hmm,
and like I make this little like peanut sauce, but with almonds because I don't really do peanuts so much. And then you like make this in this big pot, and then you use butter leaf lettuce, and then you just have these delicious lettuce wraps with like steamed broccoli on the side.
oh
Probably
my
one of my
gosh.
favorite meals of my life. So I'd probably have that. Um, Gosh, honestly, I'm gonna be straight up with you. My favorite meal is honestly like a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Like if I had to die and they were like, you get one more meal, I probably would go with like a PB&J, but with almond butter. um,
I love that.
I do love,
That's like some good classic food, honestly.
you know. Um, but I think if I had like one choice of what I would eat or one restaurant I could go to, I'd probably ask for like an all you can eat buffet because I just probably couldn't decide.
Right? A little bit of everything. Totally
Yes.
my jam. What about movement? What's your favorite type of exercise that you do, especially if you're on the go a lot too?
I have been a runner my whole life. So I would, since I was a teenager, I wasn't really sure how to work out. So I would just run and then I would just swim laps until I couldn't do it anymore. And then so running became like a therapeutic outlet for me. Like runner's high was very much a real thing. So running is definitely one
Yeah.
of my favorites. But about a year and a half ago, I tore my ACL. And so I couldn't run. And for the last year, I've been doing rehab to get my knee back into shape. I tore it when I was skiing. And so then I had to really like change a lot because when you're someone who's flighty, you're like, I don't feel good. I'm going to go run 10 miles. And then you have to sit. And then you're like also in pandemic and you have to like sit. Like it's just like my brain did not function very well. So I had to really practice with like yin yoga, like very slow, present movements, and like start training different parts of my body. So running is like my favorite, but since pandemic, I've picked back up a lot with yoga, and
Oh, that's
probably my
awesome.
favorite. Mhm.
Did that scar you from skiing?
Oh, I'm such an outdoor sports girl. So like I'm scared, but I know myself and I'll probably still do it. Gosh, oh yeah. And then, since I haven't been able to ski, I picked up wake surfing. Wake surfing is sort of like
Nice.
gives you a little bit of that feeling back. But yeah,
Yeah.
I might stay away from it.
Oh my gosh. No, I did not grow up on it. So I'm a Florida girl naturally. So yes, to like the water things, which I'm not even technically a huge water person either. I've got to be able to see underneath my feet. Like, I'm that water that you can't see can make me a little nervous. But we tried skiing. So we went to Colorado like last year and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna pick this up. I got this. No, I was seriously so embarrassed. I did a class and everyone was waiting on me. And I was just like, this is so embarrassing. I can't even walk up the dang mountain with my skis. I was like, oh my gosh, my kids killed it. My kids like
Aw.
first day in class, they're killing it. And I'm like, mom over here, like, yeah, you guys are good. I'm not.
It's so I feel you, and it's so cool that you have your kids doing it because the first day I ever tried skiing, I think I fell like 45 times, but there were these like 5-year-old kids just doing front flips and like cartwheels and like I can barely stand. I'm like basically doing the splits the whole time.
Yeah. When I was doing it, I was like, I am doing pizza. I don't know why I'm not stopping. Like, this is supposed to work.
Yes.
So it's too
Feel
funny.
that.
And what happens when something goes off track and you kind of get thrown off out of your regimen? Like, how do you bring yourself back? Do you have certain non-negotiables that you will always do no matter what?
I'm not going to tell you that I'm 100% all the time because my whole life have had issues with food. Like I would binge and I would restrict. And I've also had probably like dealt with anxiety and depression since I was a little kid. Like those things never really go away. And there are times like when I just have to go into recluse mode and just hibernate for like a two days. And you know, I'm the kind of person, if I experience something traumatic, I can't even get the words. Like I can't talk about it. Like I have to legitimately go and spend a couple days with myself in like almost like a little safe haven bubble that like is kind of isolated just for a couple of days so I can actually think. And
Yeah.
and I give myself that. Like I'm not the kind of person where I'm like, I'm just going to push through this. I let myself feel it and I don't sit in it anymore, but I let myself feel it. And I'm no longer afraid of the pain, and I'm no longer rejecting it. I'm almost like, okay, this is what's going on. Like I give myself the time and space to deal with it. And then I rest, you know, like 2-3 days usually. And then I just make sure that next morning when I wake up, I start my day right. Like sunshine on the face is probably the biggest healer. So that I start my morning right away with that. And you know, that's just my way of dealing with things. And people might have something better, or they might have non-negotiables. But for me, I have to give myself that time and space to feel. And I just happen to do that in isolation in my little, my little snuggie.
Yeah. So I know as an entrepreneur, anxiety is definitely like, I got nutrition down, exercise down, but stress, and really, like you said, like when I'm starting to feel it, knowing to back off and just to be in that space of like, I just need to take care of me right now, just so I can be there to show up for people. Cause I know it's a big thing when you're an entrepreneur. It feels like sometimes the weight is on your shoulders.
Totally.
So I'm with you. Would you consider yourself more of like an introvert or an extrovert? If like, it sounds like charging up is sometimes being alone.
Yeah, I think that I have to charge up, but then I fully enjoy when I'm with people in that way. Like
Yeah.
I can't be 100% of the time with people, and I cannot be alone 100% of the
Yeah.
time, because that will just
Yeah.
drive me crazy. But I do have this like balance where I just need a couple days of recharging, and then I can be my fullest
Yeah.
expression of myself, you know?
Yeah. Me too. It's like mostly an introvert because I like being home. That's how I recharge.
Yes.
I like the routine, but I absolutely love when I'm with people too. But I just can't do that for 2 weeks straight. I would be so burned out.
So burned out. Like, don't talk to me. Like, I don't want to be mean. Okay. I don't want to be mean.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Do you have a favorite mental health tool that you love using, or self-development book or podcast that you turn to?
Oh man, this is such a good question, because I have tried so many things. Like I have done I've done every kind of yoga. I've done every kind of workout. I've done so many guided meditations. Like some very strange guided meditations. I've tried different kinds of therapies, from, past life regression therapy to even some like psychedelic therapies. And those have been really,
Oh,
really, really impactful for me. But I would honestly say my go-to is truly still yoga. Like yoga in whether it's like I go for this like candlelit yoga at the same studio at the same time when I'm in town. And yoga is just such a beautiful way to really connect with yourself, and to really just be present and allow and love. And that, since that was probably the first time I'd ever truly felt peace in my body, was when I was 13 and I did a yoga class for the first time. And I was like, what? Like, this is what this can feel like? I had never known that before. I'd never known peace in my own body. And so doing that yoga class is still that place for
wow.
me. Mm-hmm.
Wow. That's awesome. I remember I never got too deep into where it was like my routine, but I remember doing yoga with Adrienne on YouTube. I don't know how I came across her, and I just remember feeling the same thing. I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing. And like I love working out. I'm a strength trainer, like I love that. But like there's something different about being so gentle with your body and like moving your body and just like honestly being in tune with it. It just feels so good. And I never again got it into my routine, but love how I feel after I do it.
Yeah, it's such a beautiful, like when you connect with yourself first, then you can connect with everything else so much better. Like once I do a yoga class and then I go outside, I'm like that much more connected with nature, and I love being outside. It's probably if it's not yoga, it's being outside in the trees, you know. But first having that connection with myself, because otherwise everything else feels distant or fragmented, you know?
Yeah, for sure. So, any other books or podcasts that you love to listen to that are like self-development, or maybe not currently, but you've read in the past?
So my favorite podcasts ever. I mean, these might not necessarily fall in self-development, but there's a podcast called How I Built This, and it's on NPR. And it's basically the story of, it's all these different entrepreneurs and all the things they've had to go through while building these brands like Burt's Bees, or, you know, these huge names that you think of. And just to hear their stories, really beautiful. I also really love listening to Mark Hyman's podcast, The Doctor's Pharmacy. I think he's just so inspiring. Mind Body Green is another amazing podcast. Those are kind of the ones that I tend to lean towards. For me, when it comes to self-development, I need to be fully engaged and interested and feel like I'm learning something that I can use in that moment to grow from. So I tend to lean more towards like nutrition podcasts, or, mostly nutrition podcasts, or books like The Blue Zones, where I'm learning how people live on average into their hundreds and thrive, like that kind of stuff. That gives me so much hope. But you know what? Here is an amazing book for self-development that kind of falls along those lines. It's called Ikigai. It's spelled Ikigai. And it's basically the concept of how to find your life's purpose and what that feels like. And these people feel like when they found their soul's purpose and they're working towards it, they're so fulfilled and they don't feel like they're working per se. It's because they found their ikigai. And this book is a really beautiful way to help you find that and recognize what that feels like. And that changed a lot for me. That was one of the books I read during pandemic that I would recommend to anybody.
Oh, that's awesome. If you love How I Built This, I don't know if you've read Obsessed.
No, I haven't.
It's so good. It's basically like, it's all about building a brand that people love from day one. And they go a little bit into it. I think it was maybe someone who owned a marketing firm, and maybe they helped Allbirds and other companies. So they did bring in some companies and like just everything that happened in their journey. And it was so good. I loved it. So like as a business owner, like definitely read it. It's so good. I think it's her name's Emily Hayward, I think. Really, really good.
Amazing.
Which I'll put it in the show notes as well. Especially for the entrepreneurs, because we're all trying to create a brand that people just like love. And I know I love Toodaloo. So tell us, how can we support you? Where can we find you?
Yeah.
And I'll put all these in the show notes too.
Thank you so much. You guys can find us on our Instagram. That's probably where we're the most active. So you can just follow Toodaloo Superfoods. And then we're also now available at Sprouts. So if you guys want to do us the biggest service, it would be to find us at your local Sprouts, because we're basically in there for about 2-3 weeks now. And how the relationship works is that the way that we perform in the first few months dictates whether or not we get to stay and where we're placed, and kind of like the longevity of the relationship. So if you guys can go into Sprouts, that would be amazing. Yes. We're also available on Thrive Market. We're in Erewhon, Foxtrot. And you can always find us on our website too, just toodaloo.com.
Perfect. And we usually end with a little lightning round. It's just 5 things, either or. So you choose one or the other. Super random. First one is TikTok or Instagram?
Oh my gosh, TikTok all day. Even though
really?
I'm not great at it, but the content in there is just so, oh my gosh, go into some holes.
Yeah, you can. Girlfriends or guy friends?
Ah, man, girlfriends.
Bikini or one piece?
Bikini.
Sweet or sour?
Sour.
And painful truth or comforting lie?
Painful truth all day long. I can take the painful truth and it calms my nervous system, but if there's even a smidgen of a lie, I'm disturbed at the core. So yeah, painful truth.
Me too. Awesome. Well, we're so happy we got to connect, Katie, and we'll definitely stay in touch and love to continue supporting Toodaloo.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here, and thank you for everything you've done. You've supported us so much, and it means the world to me.
Thank you.